When I was a child, I found that the new nanny was the woman in the photo that my father put in the book, so I secretly told my mother. But my mother smiled and comforted me that it was okay. Not long after, my father got promoted and became rich, and his wife died. In a few years he made tens of millions or even more. Later my father had a heart attack. I cried and tore up the will. When the nanny learned the news and rushed over with her cheap illegitimate brother, I had already signed the consent form to give up treatment with tears in my eyes, and quickly sent my father to the crematorium, turning into a handful of ashes. They couldn't believe it and exploded on the spot. But I laughed. How could the old man die without making a will? He was burned without leaving any hair for paternity testing. Now I can only inherit all the inheritance. I knew that my father had an illegitimate child outside. If it weren't for this, my mother wouldn't have died. They both struggled for most of their lives, and finally got some success in their careers. My dad suggested finding a nanny, who could take care of the family and look after me. But after the nanny came home, I felt that she looked very familiar. I secretly ran to my dad's study at night and found a photo from his collection of books. It seems that I remember correctly. When I was a child, I loved to tear the doors of books, and my parents followed me. But when I just touched the book, my dad took it away on the spot. A photo fell from it. I glanced at it and remembered it. Later, seeing that he cherished the photo so much, I sneaked in and looked at it several times. Fortunately, my dad beat me after I caught him, and threatened me to pretend that I didn't see it. As time went by, my dad probably thought I had forgotten about it. But I clearly remember that the nanny was the woman in the photo. I secretly told my mom, but my mom smiled and comforted me that it was okay. But that night, I clearly heard the two of them quarreling, and the nanny was temporarily dismissed, but about half a month later. I don't know if it was my mother who compromised, but under the pressure of my father, the nanny appeared again. When my mother was at home, she knew to restrain herself. Once my mother was not at home, he was like entering an empty space, doing whatever he wanted at home. And as for the so-called care of me in my father's mouth, it was even more untrue. After another half a year, one morning my mother suddenly coughed up blood, went to the hospital for a checkup and found out that she was seriously ill. She didn't even have time to explain anything to me, and she just passed away. At that time, I thought that it must be my father and the vicious nanny who set up a trap to kill my father, but I was too young at the time and couldn't resist. I could only cry at the funeral, but I couldn't do anything. But the seeds of hatred were planted. My father got promoted, got rich, and his wife died. He made tens of millions or even more in a few years. When I grew up, I was very aware of my father's intention to promote the nanny, but considering the growing influence of the company. In addition, my grandfather had nothing but many people to help him, and he was afraid of causing a scandal and affecting his own income, so he did not dare to act rashly. He fired the nanny on the surface, but secretly rented a house for him outside. I knew where the house was located, and I was alone at home most of the time, guarding the huge empty villa. My father would go to the mistress's place to reunite with the family in his heart and enjoy the family life. At the beginning, he treated me as a daughter, would take my emotions into consideration, and asked me about my well-being from time to time, but as time went by, the family business became bigger and bigger. He became more and more indifferent to me. Whether I was promoted from primary school to junior high school or from junior high school to high school, he didn't care at all and didn't even ask. I could even feel that if he hadn't been worried about the people from my grandpa's side coming to make trouble, he would have kicked me out of the house without hesitation, but I had no other choice but to wait patiently. Soon this opportunity really came for me. When my dad went home to find documents, he suddenly fell to the ground and a bottle of quick-acting heart-saving pills fell out of his pocket. Seeing this, I guessed that he was probably overworked and had heart problems. I didn't know whether it was because he was too tired from work or too tired from lying in bed, so I didn't have time to think too much. I ran over quickly and kicked his medicine bottle away. Half squatted down and asked Dad with concern, "What's wrong with you?" My dad trembled and desperately reached out to hook the medicine bottle. But I pulled his hand back with all my strength, pretending to be ignorant, and continued to ask him what was wrong. "Dad, talk to me. What does Dad want to do? Tell me quickly." My dad stared at me with red eyes, his lips trembling, but he couldn't speak. I guess he wanted to kill me at that moment. But I have good intentions. How could I deliberately kill someone? After he stared at me too hard and fainted, I called him for more than 10 minutes but couldn't wake him up. Then I hurriedly called the emergency number. The paramedics came and asked me if the patient had any emergency treatment before. I didn't know. My dad was too busy and didn't go home for 800 years. I answered with tears while helping to carry the patient. After arriving at the hospital, the doctor gave me emergency treatment and then told me with regret that I should consider whether to have surgery, because even if it is surgery, the success rate is less than 10. I cried and said that I must have surgery and begged him to save my dad. If he really can't save him, then let him not save him. I will never make trouble for the hospital and cause trouble to the hospital. After signing the consent notice for surgery, I turned back to the ward, but saw that my father had woken up and was writing something with a pen in his trembling hands. I hurried over to take a look and found that he was actually writing a will. The content was probably about leaving all the inheritance to the nanny. The illegitimate child had nothing to do with me anyway. I was overjoyed. Well, it seems that before this, he didn't even have time to make a will. I immediately stepped forward, pulled over the will he had written with great difficulty, tore it into pieces, and then suddenly fell on my father and cried loudly, "Dad, let's not talk about this between father and daughter. I am your only daughter. Why should I make a will? Even if you become a vegetable, I will serve you tea and water. Dad, you must hold on." I cried and captured the traces, pressing towards the part near his heart. The nurses next to him wiped their tears and praised me for being filial. They were so moved. But only from my angle could I see that my dad's eyes were red with anger, and he kept struggling. "But Dad, you're old and can't beat me." In less than half a minute, he fainted from anger. The machine next to him issued a beeping alarm. The doctor rushed in, and after a simple check of his pupil reaction, he immediately announced that his condition was critical and that surgery must be performed immediately. I agreed with both hands and feet, and watched my dad being rushed to the operating room. After 2 hours of hardship, the doctor hurriedly walked out of the operating room and told me with a serious expression that the operation was successful. I almost vomited blood. Damn it. I came across a 10 success rate, but soon the doctor used a series of medical terms that I could not understand, explaining to me that even if he was alive, he could only be in the ICU on a ventilator, and the probability of brain death was very high. I immediately shed excited tears. The doctor thought I was too sad and tried to comfort me. I shook my head and gritted my teeth to hold back my laughter. My dad was most afraid of suffering. "Doctor, you said so. If there is no treatment, I have to let my dad pass away comfortably." Then with a sad face, I signed the consent form for giving up treatment, gave my father a breathing tube with my own hands, and soon he was covered with a white cloth. I quickly asked the doctor to issue a death certificate and personally sent him to the crematorium because it was super. I even opened the SVIP green channel of the crematorium. In less than an hour, my dad was turned into ashes and lived in a shoe box. Well, I couldn't bear to buy a box that cost 10,000 yuan. He doesn't deserve a big villa and doesn't want to live in it, right? Then he will live in this square boardroom in the future. I can't help but sigh, it's good to have money. When I came out with the shoebox, not the urn, a group of funeral service unit staff members rushed forward desperately. They probably thought that my dad was a millionaire and they would make a fortune from me. They didn't know that I threw the urn into the trunk and drove away. What a waste of money to hold a funeral. My mother taught me that diligence and thrift are virtues. When you get death, you can save money. To get proof, I immediately contacted the company lawyer and promised him a kickback of 1 million. He was more afraid of trouble than I was, so he expedited the inheritance process for me. My dad's inheritance is really huge. He has 80 million in personal cash assets, a villa, a profitable company, and investments in 2 emerging companies. I have never seen so much money in my life. When my mom was there, I had no worries about food and clothing, and my pocket money was all from her. After my mom passed away, I basically just lived a short life because no one took care of me. Although I lived in an empty big villa, sometimes I couldn't even get enough to eat, unless my dad came back and couldn't stand it anymore. They would give me some money, which was only enough to buy instant noodles after deducting tuition fees. On the surface, I was a rich second generation, but in fact, I lived worse than a left-behind child. Now that I had become a nouveau riche, I hurried to have a big meal I had been dreaming of to celebrate my father's grand funeral. After eating and drinking, I returned to the villa, only to see the nanny Zhang Jinlian and her son Zhang dating blocking the door, anxiously pacing around. After seeing me, they ran over with their eyes wide open. "Where's your dad?" I pursed my lips, and the tears didn't fall after brewing for a long time. After all, my net worth now exceeded a small goal. Besides being happy, I was also fucking happy. My dad passed away from a sudden heart attack. Zhang Jinlian was struck by lightning. She swayed and almost fell. Her son immediately supported her, but his eyes were dull and he murmured, "Mom and Dad, I don't have a dad anymore." I hurriedly walked around them into the villa and closed the door. After Zhang Jinlian and her son recovered, they hurried over to knock on the door. "Open the door. Where's your dad's body? Give it to us quickly." I didn't even open the door. I replied casually, "Dad forgot he was still in the trunk." After that, I pressed the car key in the direction of the window, and the trunk popped open. A cheap urn was squeezed together with a pile of broken toolboxes. Zhang Jinlian and his son couldn't believe it and exploded on the spot. How could it be cremated directly? Why was it cremated? "Wang Ting, you bastard, he is not only your father, but also my man and my son's biological father. How dare you cremate him directly without our consent? Open the door. Your father promised to give us all the things inside. At least half of them should belong to my son." I said sarcastically with a smile on my face. Why did the old man die without making a will? He was burned and not even a hair was left for paternity test. Now I have to inherit all the estate. Listen carefully, it's all. Hearing this, Zhang Jinlian and his son banged on the door like crazy. Wang Ting, you bastard, it turns out you knew he would die. Open the door quickly and give me back the money. I called the security guard because of the noise and drove them away directly. I left. Afterwards I put the villa up for sale online. Such a big house cannot be managed by one person. It is unlucky without popularity. Let's sell it. After selling it, I will go to Thompson 1 to buy a large flat. The next day, the agent came to the door first, but I didn't expect Zhang Jinlian and her son to rush in. What are you doing, Wang Ting? What do you want to do? He grabbed my clothes and asked loudly, as if I was selling his house. Let me tell you, Wang Ting, my son is also your father's son. You have no right to sell the house. Even if you sell it, half of the money belongs to my son. Bastard Wang Ting, you are the one who killed my father. He said that Zhang Jinlian was asking me for property like crazy. His son Zize acted as if it was my fault, as if he had lost his father, and was about to rush up to hit me. The agents were panicked, and didn't know whether they should see the house or not after such a commotion. I smiled and waved my hands, saying that there was absolutely no dispute about the house, and that they should wait for me to call someone to help me. When Zhang Jing's son saw that I was going to call someone, he immediately shouted at the top of his voice, "Why are you pretending?" As if no one in the society had anyone. Just wait for me. Then he called for help and told them to bring their weapons. The agents became even more panicked and wanted to leave one after another. It was not until they heard sirens getting closer that they felt at ease. Zhang Jinlian's son was stunned and immediately panicked and called to report the news. I was quick and reached out to grab the phone. He fell directly to the ground, and his mobile phone was scrapped on the spot. Wang Ting, what are you doing? I smiled and said, isn't it just a mobile phone? I just inherited tens of millions of inheritance, and I will compensate you with a new one later. After the police came in, they asked who called the police. I raised my hand and walked out. At this time, Zhang Jinlian and her son had already wanted to slip away, or to say, they wanted to go out to stop the helpers who were about to arrive. I immediately jumped up and pointed at them and shouted, "Comrade police, control them quickly, they want to break into the house and commit crimes." In a flash, 2 policemen heard the words and immediately stopped Zhang Jinlian and her son. They hurriedly explained that Comrade Police was not what he said. He was slandering them, and before Comrade Police could, when they were questioning, suddenly more than a dozen big men rushed into the villa, holding steel pipes and knives in their hands and looking at each other with the police. Now it's good, no explanation can be made clear. The police comrades took quick action and arrested a few who ran away. Zhang Jinlian saw that the matter had become serious, so she hurried over to let me explain. Wang Ting, you quickly explain it clearly. We are just here to ask for the inheritance. We are here to make trouble. I spread my hands. We all came with weapons. If the police uncle was not at the scene today, I dare not imagine what the consequences will be. Police comrade, I will hold this matter accountable to the end. Wang Ting, bastard, nonsense. Zhang Jinlian and the illegitimate child were taken for investigation during the struggle, and the intermediaries looked at each other. I didn't know what to do, so I smiled and said, let's go. I guarantee there will be no disputes when we go to see the house. I'll show you the house. I put the house online at 5 million, which was lower than the market price. Soon a buyer came to see the house and was very satisfied. He asked me if it could be cheaper. How about 4.5 million? I agreed without thinking. My main goal was to sell it quickly and get the money quickly. After I got the money, I immediately paid in full for a large flat with fine decoration, and moved in happily. On the same day, Zhang Jinlian and her son were released. They had been detained for 3 days in total. The first thing they did after they got out was to look for me. They looked for me all over the world, and even the new owner called me. The owner of the house called me and said that someone was always harassing her, and asked me to come out and resolve the issue. My reply was simple. The owner of the house is the one who caused trouble. I would call the police if they came to make trouble. Unexpectedly, the owner did not call the police, but Zhang Jinlian did. The owner of the house called me that day and said that Zhang Jinlian had slandered him for illegal transactions and illegal occupation of property, and asked me to come over quickly. I heard this and knew that I had to go and see what was going on, so I rushed over. When I got there, I saw that Zhang Jinlian was pulling her son and making a scene. This is our Lin Hai's house, and it was sold at a low price by his bastard daughter. Just wait and see, this is Lin Hai's own flesh and blood. Even such a big matter as selling the house was not even mentioned by his brother. It is obviously illegal without the consent of the owner of the house. Besides, it has been such a long time and my son has not seen a penny. As the heir, how dare Wang Ting take it all for himself? You are here, come and see what is going on. I bought this house for 4.5 million, you can't harm me. When the owner saw me coming, he ran over as if he had found a savior. Zhang Jinlian and her son followed closely behind. They came to pull me when they did something. Wang Ting, you damn it, where is the money? Where is the money that belongs to us? The police comrade shouted loudly. Everyone was silent and spoke one by one. Then the police turned to ask me why I didn't tell my brother when I sold the house. I was stunned. What brother? I have only been the only child in our family. Then I even brought the household registration book. The head of the household is my father, who has passed away, and the household registration has been cancelled. My mother also passed away 10 years ago. Now I am the head of the household. The police comrade took it and took a look. He immediately frowned and looked at Zhang Jinlian and her son. The mother and son hurriedly explained that my son is really Lin Hai's biological child. If you don't believe it, just look. He took out a photo. It was a parent-child photo of my father and Zhang dating. You must admit that the two look very similar. The police comrade asked, then what is your relationship with Wang Ting? He is the child of Lin Hai and his ex-wife. There is no relationship between us. Nonsense, where is the ex-wife? My parents never divorced until they died. No, it's not about divorce procedures. Although no formalities were completed, I am the legal wife. Zhang Jinlian was anxious and incoherent. The Qing dynasty had been gone for many years, and even their legal wife showed up. Suddenly he seemed to think of something and pointed at me. He must have killed Lin Hai, and cremated the body in a hurry to destroy the evidence. He said it a few days ago that Lin Hai did not leave a will before his death. He was burned to ashes, and even the hair for paternity test was not left. Police comrades, you must believe what I said. My son is miserable enough without a father. He must have half of this property. The police comrades listened impatiently. There is no substantial evidence. Don't make malicious speculations. The transfer of this house has been completed. Now we are protected by the law. If you come to harass us again, we will handle the matter impartially. If you have any objections, I suggest you sue us in court. Zhang Jinlian heard this and sat down on the ground crying. It was so unfair. Her own son was bullied like this. A group of people were watching. Taking advantage of this opportunity, I walked to the owner and told him to call the police next time he comes. It will be fine if he is arrested once. Don't worry, there will be no dispute. Why should I give you a 500,000 discount on this house? You don't know what's going on. It's just a small trouble. You won't lose 500,000. Seeing the new owner nodded, I drove away in my new Maserati under the murderous eyes of Zhang Jinlian and her son. The next day, I had an impulse and planned to go to my cheap dad's company to take a look. As a result, I found that Zhang Jinlian and her son didn't get any advantage from me, and they actually came to the company to make trouble. Don't you want to work anymore? Lin Hai is dead, and this is his biological son. He is here to inherit the company, and he is the department manager himself. Don't you know him? I heard that my father pulled his illegitimate son to work in the company to pave the way for him. At that time, I couldn't even afford to eat, but the illegitimate son already had the status of a manager with a monthly salary of tens of thousands. But it's a pity that no matter how much my father doted on him, he didn't dare to tell the employees directly that this was his son. After all, many people know that I am the only child in my family. But I came to the company. Although I asked my father for money, I also showed my face. The company is big. Some people know me. Stop making trouble here. Our boss has only one daughter, Wang Ting. Where did you get this son from? You're talking nonsense. Zhang dating, I warn you, if you make trouble again, I will immediately fire you as the department manager. The general manager not only does not believe the identity of the mother and son, but he doesn't even believe that my father is dead. Zhang Jinlian is relentless. Wang Ting, I don't know where she died. Hurry up and assist my son to be the chairman, otherwise I will fire you. Let's see who is making trouble in my company. I was wearing casual clothes and walked over leisurely. The company's senior management was all shocked and looked at each other. The expression seemed to say that the young boss was here. Could it be that the boss was really dead? I didn't hide it anymore and directly showed them the death certificate, and then I said, from today on, I am the top manager of this company. Your jobs will remain the same, and your year-end bonus will be doubled. Go and get busy. These people's shock had not yet dissipated when they showed joy. Seeing that I looked serious, they did not dare to say much. They responded and were about to leave, but Zhang Jinlian stopped them and said, don't go. Let me make it clear. This company belongs to Lin Hai, and my son is Lin Hai's illegitimate son. This was a self-destruction on the spot. All the senior executives were shocked. Zhang Jinlian continued to chatter on. Lin Hai and I have known each other for a long time. We were childhood sweethearts. Later, he got married and we lost contact. After he became rich, he came to me again and gave birth to Zhang dating with me. He is your current department manager and future chairman. I smiled facing the shocked eyes of the senior executives. I applauded. The story is good, keep going. I didn't make up any stories, what I said is true. I cleared my throat and turned to explain to the higher-ups, she was my nanny, she's gone insane. After my mom passed away she always fantasized about being the mistress of the house. This child was born between her and a motorcycle repair mechanic in the countryside. She has nothing to do with my dad, that's all. Stop eating the melon, get busy. You can make up stories, I can make up stories better than you. Zhang Jinlian's face was unbearable to look at. As if she had eaten Coptis chinensis. She stamped her feet in anxiety. You don't believe it, right? I tell you, the house we live in now was bought by Lin Hai. He comes to live with me every day. There are still a lot of his daily necessities in it. Talking about daily necessities, Zhang Jinlian was stunned. Her eyes suddenly widened, the corners of his mouth rose wildly. Wang Ting, do you think that if you cremate the body quickly I can't prove the parent-child relationship? There are some hairs of your father in my house. Zhang Jinlian was saved from despair and laughed heartily, but I waved my hand and asked the security guard to drive them out. If they let people in again they won't have to come to work. What should I do with Zhang Dating? He is the manager of the RD department and he is not doing RD at all. Fire him immediately. Okay, Mr. Lin. Zhang Dating looked at me and gritted his teeth. Wang Ting, you bastard. His mother just found a breakthrough. Now is the time to be excited. She persuaded her son next to her. Don't be afraid, son. We will go home immediately and take the evidence to do a paternity test. All your father's property will be yours in the future. And these people will all be fired by then. All fired. Zhang Dating tried hard. She nodded, her face showing both excitement and ferocity. Okay, just wait for me, they said, and then they left. After they left, I immediately contacted a lawyer and asked him to help me check how much assets my father had outside. I want to get them all back. 2 days later, I got feedback and it was confirmed that my father did buy a house and a car for Zhang Jinlian and her family. The name of the house owner was Zhang Dating, and the car was also in Zhang Dating's name. In this case, it is not surprising that my father's belongings were left in the house. On the same afternoon, I received a summons from the court. Zhang Jinlian and her son sued me, saying that I had illegally occupied the estate. On the day of the trial, Zhang Jinlian's face was beaming. Son, look carefully and see how mom will help you today, and take back everything that belongs to you. Some people have been disfavored since childhood. Don't even think about turning over in your life, you won't get any good things. His son nodded vigorously. Mom, wait until I get the company back. I will immediately fire those who bullied us, especially the security guards who drove us away. I looked at them silently, chuckled and entered the court. After today, I will make sure you don't even have a place to live. After the court opened, the other party's lawyer proceeded step by step. First produced a series of evidence to prove the relationship between Zhang Jinlian and my father. The evidence included chat records, group photos and tickets for the two to travel. Mr. Judge, these are documents proving that Ms. Zhang and Lin Hai had a relationship. Then he took out a newly opened paternity test. In view of the fact that Lin Hai had passed away, the defendant Wang Ting maliciously cremated quickly, resulting in the inability to go through the normal paternity test procedure. With the permission of the client, we went to the house where Lin Hai once lived and extracted Lin Hai's hair. This certificate is sufficient to prove that Lin Hai and Zhang Dating have a parent-child relationship. Therefore, we request to seize and freeze all of Lin Hai's estate, and divide half of it into two according to the inheritance law and hand it over to my client. The judge asked whether the defendant had any objection to the evidence provided by the plaintiff. I nodded and did not let the lawyer speak. My father and he did have an improper relationship between men and women. I knew about this. I protested against the defendant's malicious insult to my client, but the protest was invalid. The defendant continued. I stared at the other lawyer with a sneer. I knew what it was to live with someone knowing that he had a family. The defendant was untrue. My client was in Lin Hai and lived with him only after his wife died. Yes, the child was born after cohabitation. I asked the lawyer back, but he hesitated for a long time. I protested that this topic was irrelevant to this case and the protest was invalid. The plaintiff's lawyer, please answer the question directly. My lawyer spoke. Mr. Judge, Zhang Dating is already in his early 20s, and Lin Hai's wife has only been dead for 10 years. The other lawyer hesitated and looked like he was just an amateur. The child should have been born before cohabitation, but this does not conflict with inheritance. We have done a paternity test. I laughed, and my lawyer with an annual salary of 1 million also laughed. How do you prove that the hair you took for the test belonged to the deceased Lin Hai? I made an exaggerated expression and acted as if I had suddenly realized something. Oh yes, whoever makes the claim must provide evidence. Even if the hair belongs to Zhang Dating's biological father, how do you prove that it is? It's my father Lin Hai's. If you say it is, it is. Zhang Jinlian, her son and the lawyer stared at each other, dumbfounded by the other party's idiot. The lawyer got anxious and said, Mr. Judge, our client can guarantee that the sample sent is Lin Hai's. Zhang Jinlian shouted, Yes, Your Honor, I swear that the hair is Lin Hai's. Believe us. The judge knocked the gavel, there was silence, and then he looked at the documents for a while. He asked me if Mr. Lin Hai had been cremated. Before I could answer, Zhang Jinlian took over and said, "He cremated it maliciously. He was taken to the crematorium just after he came out of the operating room. In addition, I have his signature agreeing to give up treatment." They excitedly held up my signature certificate of agreeing to give up treatment as if they had grabbed a life-saving straw. As his biological daughter, he didn't even want to give up treatment. He didn't even give me a chance. I strongly suspected that he had a motive to kill. He wanted to kill Lin Hai on purpose so as to seize his property. And until now, Lin Hai's urn is still in the trunk of his car. We Chinese people believe in resting in peace. How can we have a son like him? Zhang Jinlian bombarded me with a ferocious expression. If not, he would have gone berserk on the spot in court. On the contrary, I was calm and composed. My lawyer also responded very calmly. "Mr. Judge, if the plaintiff is making personal attacks on my client, we will reserve the right to pursue the matter. I have no personal attacks. He has a bad relationship with his father. My suspicions are all traceable. Mr. Judge, please allow me to make a statement." I faced Zhang Jinlian's evidence. In terms of words, my relationship with my father is not that good. But what the plaintiff said, does it have anything to do with my inheritance? My family business was exchanged for my mother's dowry. My mother and father worked hard together. As their only daughter, why can't I inherit it? In addition, the direct reason why our father-daughter relationship dropped to the freezing point is that he knew that my father had a family, but he still intervened and destroyed our family harmony. My mother was angered to death by them. In the 10 years since my mother's death, they have always maintained an improper relationship. Why do I need to have a good relationship with such a father? The judge knocked the hammer, and the hospital recognized that giving up treatment was the defendant's due right. In addition, the plaintiff's paternity test certificate was indeed ineffective to prove the parent-child relationship is invalid. Zhang Jinlian's body softened and she almost collapsed on the chair. The other lawyer suddenly stood up and said, "We request a paternity test with the defendant. If it is proved that there is a blood relationship, then it can be confirmed that Zhang dating is Lin Hai's biological flesh and blood." I laughed out loud when I heard this. Not to mention whether I am willing to do a paternity test with him. Even if I am willing, my father's generation had 3 brothers. Who dares to say that he is my father's flesh and blood, instead of me defeating them? Let's take a step back and say, what if my father and I have no blood relationship? What if I was picked up from the garbage dump? If you want to prove that you are my father's son, you still have to do a paternity test with him. Of course, even if my father and I have no blood relationship, I am his only legal heir. The lawyer almost vomited blood when he heard it. It was ridiculous. Zhang Jinlian looked abnormal. She was very excited and stood up as if to rush towards me. After being scolded by the judge, she still pointed at me and cursed Wang Ting. "You bastard. I live with your father, not your uncles. Don't get excited. The law requires evidence. It's not you who is making a scene. Do you dare to say that there is no possibility? You bastard." Wang Ting was silent. The judge saw that the situation was about to get out of control, and knocked the gavel several times in a row. Did the plaintiff and the defendant have anything else to say? I poked the lawyer's arm, and the lawyer immediately took out a document and said, "Mr. Judge, my client requests the recovery of his father's overseas assets, including the plaintiff Zhang Dating's house and car. The house and car are in my son's name. What right do you have to recover them?" Zhang Jinlian was extremely angry. The lawyer continued in a calm tone. He said, "We have evidence showing that the payee was Lin Hai, and the head of the household at that time was also Lin Hai, but half a year after the transaction, the head of the household changed to Zhang Dating. It was Lin Hai who took the initiative to request to transfer the ownership to my son. The plaintiff should remain silent and wait for the defendant to finish his statement before speaking. Do not disrupt the order of the court. The defendant's lawyer, please continue." The lawyer took out another transcript. After our investigation, Lin Hai was not present when the house and the car were transferred twice. It was Zhang Jinlian who handled the matter with Lin Hai's ID card. Therefore, we determined that Lin Hai was unaware of the transfer, so there was no gift. Nonsense. How can the house be transferred if the parties are not present? Zhang Jinlian shouted angrily, and the lawyer ignored her. After handing over the evidence, he said nothing more. The judge looked at it for a while, put the evidence aside, and asked Zhang Jinlian if there was any suspicion of similar gift at that time. How could there be any suspicion? We are lovers, how could we write such things? The plaintiff warned you once. When the judge asked a question, answer it directly and don't talk about irrelevant things. I said the facts. Why didn't I answer it directly? The judge's face changed slightly, and then he banged the gavel to adjourn the court and choose another day to pronounce the verdict. My request was also required to make him sue in the case, But in fact the result was already written on his face. Judge, you haven't understood the whole situation yet. Don't leave. Zhang Jinlian felt wronged. He is obviously my father's biological son, but now he can't get a penny. He is so wrong that he didn't give up even after the court was adjourned. He had to chase the judge to continue the trial. The court even sent out bailiffs that I warned him that I would arrest him if he continued to pester me, and that scared him off. He was so angry that he grabbed his defense lawyer and started scolding him, asking him how could he defend him? He couldn't even defend himself, so what kind of lawyer are you? During the scuffle, the lawyer's face was scratched, and he got angry on the spot and said, "Let you go. You're the one who committed adultery and became a mistress. Who can you blame?" Ha ha, I was watching the whole show on the side and laughed out loud. Just wait, the verdict will be enough to make him suffer. After leaving the court, I went to the company. In the past few days, I have hired a professional manager to help me fight. He just called me and said that he found some loopholes and wanted me to go over and take a look. After arriving at the company, he gave me the sorted documents. Before leaving, I checked the company's bill flow and found that there was a department manager named Zhang Dating, who had more than 5 million bad debts in 3 years. I asked the finance department, and he said that Boss Lin knew about this before and didn't let him check it. But if this account can't be made up, many other accounts can't be made up. I sneered, Zhang Dating, you really deserve to die. Is Boss Lin going to continue investigating? 100 Yes, investigate corruption. Investigate it thoroughly. After finding out, call the police and arrest the person directly without going through me. It's Mr. Lin. After a while, the court's verdict came down, ruling that the illegitimate son Zhang Dating could not prove his parentage, so he could not enjoy the inheritance right. In addition, the case I sued to recover the real estate and car was also ruled. They need to return half of Lin Hai's property, that is, half of the house and half of the car. Such a verdict was within my expectations. After all, they did live together as lovers for a long time and had a de facto marriage. It was not practical to want everything back, but it did not affect my decision to make them homeless. On the same day, I took a lawyer and the verdict to the house where they lived. Zhang Jinlian and her son were like guarding a city tower, each holding a kitchen knife. Whoever dared to take my house, I would fight him to the death. Wang Ting, you damn big brother is your half-brother after all, and you are so cruel to torture him to this point. This is just the beginning. Aunt Jinlian, the verdict has come down. I advise you to quickly get the house and sell the car and hand over the money. Otherwise you will be on the blacklist and it will be bad. It is impossible for me to not give you a penny. I want to appeal. He was too emotional to appeal, so I didn't pay much attention to him. I just glanced at the house casually. The decoration was luxurious. This villa was at least 200 square meters. The cabinet next to the door was full of luxury goods. Lawyer Zhang took pictures. These things were to be sold and given to us at a discount. Lawyer Zhang took out his mobile phone to take pictures. Zhang Jinlian and her son came over and tried to snatch them. They took the opportunity to take an old mobile phone from the cabinet. I was very familiar with that phone. It was used by my father a long time ago. I want to take it back and see if there are any important clues in it. I want to investigate the cause of my mother's death. After taking back what belongs to me, it is not enough. I also want to take their lives. After making a fuss in Zhang Jinlian's house for nearly half an hour, the lawyer and I left. When we went out, the lawyer told me that they would definitely move the items in the house immediately, but it was not yet the statute of limitations for appeal, and we could not apply for seizure. I shook my head and said it didn't matter. I'll just give him those things as alms. They were gone. Compared with the suffering they were about to face, these items were insignificant. After I left, I went directly to the city hospital and retrieved my mother's death report and medical records. I didn't know the result until I saw it. After reading it, my back teeth were almost broken. My mother died of chronic poisoning just as I guessed at the time. I asked the doctor who was seeing the doctor if the hospital would call the police in this situation. The doctor who was seeing the doctor at that time had retired and was now working. The doctor explained to me that many harmful toxins could not be found out to be specifically what the components were, nor could they be determined what food they were in, let alone whether it was man-made or not. Unless the person died from acute poisoning, they would not usually take the initiative to call the police. I left with the medical records, but I kept thinking on the way. My mother's chronic poisoning was definitely not caused by diet, because we had been eating together. If it was not diet, what kind of situation would it be? Thinking about it, I was suddenly shocked. My mother liked lipstick, and her dressing table was full of various lipsticks. I immediately called the new owner of the villa, and asked him if anything in the basement was missing. The household owner sounded very confused. He said, "Your house has a basement and I haven't officially moved in yet. The things are still there. If you want them, come and take them away quickly. If you are late for 2 days, they will be gone." It turned out that he wanted to get a bargain at the beginning. He didn't look carefully or listen carefully. He was just thinking about getting a bargain, so he hurriedly completed the procedures with me. This was a good thing for me. After confirming that there was nothing, I drove there quickly and went to the basement. I searched everywhere among the messy items, but my heart sank immediately. There were all kinds of cosmetics, but there was no lipstick. This further confirmed my guess. It seemed that my father cleaned up the evidence as soon as my mother passed away. Oh, that's not right. I suddenly remembered that on the day my mother passed away, I took a lipstick out of her pocket. I planned to keep it as a commemoration. I quickly ran upstairs, took out a box under the bed in my original room, and found a faded lipstick in it. I immediately took the lipstick for identification. The results came out that day, which clearly proved that it contained chemical toxins that could cause chronic death. The next day I went again. I asked someone to restore the data in the phone, and found the chat records of the two of them who planned to kill my mother. Zhang Jinlian, when can you marry me? Lin Hai doesn't agree to divorce, what can I do? Zhang Jinlian, you are obviously playing a trick on me. Not only are you reluctant to poison me, but you also plan to keep me out of the spotlight for the rest of my life. Lin Hai poisoned me, do you want to visit me in prison? Zhang Jinlian, chronic chemical toxins cannot be detected at all, you don't even understand this. Zhang Jinlian, if you are determined, go buy some medicine and put it in their food, and kill that kid together. Lin Hai knew about it, and there were many other chat records like this. The last time they chatted was on the day my mother died. Zhang Jinlian angrily asked Lin Hai why my mother died, but I was fine. Lin Hai said that the child was innocent, and that in the future he would just leave all his property to the illegitimate child and give me a way to live. I sneered. It turned out that I almost became one of the victims of the murder plan. With these evidences, I immediately called the police to arrest people. When Zhang Jinlian was arrested, she was completely confused. He had no idea why he was arrested. He was dumbfounded until the police told him that the poisoning was planned. He shouted that he was innocent and claimed that the poisoning was done by Lin Hai alone. The police did not need to show him any evidence, and everything would be cleared up in court. On the other hand, Zhang Dating ran to my residence and knelt down to beg me to let Zhang Jinlian go. He said that he promised to give me half of the real estate and car, and that the person was already dead, and there was no point in pursuing the past. Because of this sentence, I slapped him more than a dozen times, and his mouth and nose were bleeding. He was bleeding, and wanted to warn me of intentional injury. However, before he could take out his phone, the police arrived and handcuffed him. His expression was exactly the same as his mother's. Neither of them reacted at all while they were arrested. Looking closely, Zhang Dating's legs softened instantly. That was given to me by my father, not embezzled by me. It was not Zhang Dating's. The evidence in the case was irrefutable, and the verdict was made within a month. Because there was no document to prove the gift, and Zhang Dating was always an employee in the company, and the amount of embezzlement was huge, he was sentenced to life imprisonment and all his property was confiscated. All personal property was confiscated. More than half a year later, Zhang Jinlian was also sentenced. She was the planner of the murder and was identified as the main plotter. Because of the evil means of the crime and the motive of wanting to poison me, she was sentenced to death by the court and all her personal property was confiscated. Zhang Jinlian and Zhang Dating were dissatisfied with the verdict and appealed for the second time. I also asked for a retrial and strongly requested that the murderer Lin Hai be included. Even if he died, I would convict him and make him suffer in hell. 1 year passed quickly and the final verdict of the Court of Final Appeal came down. Lin Hai was hanged on the murder charge. The crime of the criminal. Zhang Jinlian and her son both maintained the original verdict. Today is the day Zhang Jinlian is to be executed. I took the two verdicts and went to my mother's grave to light them silently. As the two sinful papers burned to ashes, I put a white platycode on in front of the tombstone with tears in my eyes. Mom, rest in peace. Those who harmed us have received the punishment they deserved. A gust of wind blew, and the ashes swayed in the air for a long time. It seems that my mother has received the news. I hope you will not let the couple go. The full text is over.